Imagine a priest, a man of God, a pillar of his community. Now, imagine that same priest is a serial killer, preying on his own flock. This isn't the plot of a horror movie. It's the true, chilling story of Father Juan Severino Mallari, the first documented serial killer in the Philippines. To understand how this could even happen, we need to travel back in time to the early 1800s in the Spanish-colonized Philippines. Life back then was vastly different. The Spanish Empire had ruled the islands for centuries, and at the heart of every town, both physically and culturally, stood the Catholic Church. The local priest, or curapahoku, wasn't just a spiritual guide. He was one of the most powerful figures in society. He often held more sway than the local government official. Priests were seen as educated, divinely appointed, and morally untouchable. They were the confidants, the advisors, the very bedrock of the community. Questioning a priest was unthinkable. Disobeying him was a sin, and accusing him of a crime, that was nearly impossible. This absolute authority, this cloak of unquestionable sanctity, is the very environment that allowed a monster to hide in plain sight, wearing the robes of a holy man. This is the story of how that cloak was finally pulled away. Juan Severino Mallari was born around 1785 in Magalang, Pampanga, into a relatively well-off, or Principalia, family. From a young age, he was set on a path to the priesthood, one of the few avenues for social advancement available to native Filipinos at the time. He was intelligent and dedicated, eventually graduating from the prestigious University of Santo Tomas and being ordained as a priest. In 1809, he was assigned as the parish priest of Magalang, a town not far from his home. On the surface, he was a success story, a local boy who had achieved a position of immense respect and power. But beneath this respectable exterior, a dark and twisted belief system was taking root in Mallari's mind. He was haunted by a personal demon, a deep-seated conviction that his mother was a victim of witchcraft, a curse known as gawe or kulam. He believed this hex had not only caused her illness and eventual death, but was now afflicting him as well. He started experiencing strange health problems, bouts of paranoia, and a general sense of unease. Instead of seeking medical help or questioning his own mental state, Mallari turned to a horrifying conclusion, one steeped in local superstition and personal delusion. He became convinced that the only way to break the curse on himself was to counteract it with an even greater power, the blood of the living. He believed he needed to perform his own dark rituals, offering human lives to appease whatever malevolent force he thought was tormenting him. His parish, the community that looked to him for salvation, was about to become his personal hunting ground. The town of Magalang, once a peaceful community, began to live in a state of quiet terror. People started disappearing. At first, it might have been dismissed a traveler who never arrived, a farmhand who moved away without a word. But soon, a pattern emerged. Bodies began turning up, brutally murdered. The victims were often found in remote areas, their deaths violent and seemingly random. Panic spread like a fever. Who was this phantom killer stalking their town? Was it a group of bandits? A vengeful spirit? No one suspected the one man everyone trusted implicitly, their own priest, Father Mallari. Mallari was cunning. He used his position to his advantage, gathering information during confessions, learning the routines and vulnerabilities of his parishioners. He was the one they turned to for comfort in their fear, all while he was the very source of it. His descent into madness was methodical. He wasn't killing in fits of rage. He was performing what he saw as a necessary, albeit gruesome, ceremony. He truly believed that each life he took was a step toward his own healing, a sacrifice to lift the curse he thought was upon him. His victims weren't people to him. They were ingredients in a magical cure. Over the course of several years, the body count climbed. Parishioners whispered about a monster in the shadows, never once looking at the man standing in the pulpit. The official death toll is recorded as 57 victims, but given the time period and the remote nature of the area, the true number could have been much higher. He preyed on his own flock for years, shielded by his holy robes and the unshakable faith of his people. The reign of terror couldn't last forever. As the number of victims grew impossibly high, the Spanish colonial authorities could no longer ignore the carnage. They began a formal investigation, but progress was slow. Witnesses were terrified to speak, and the idea of a priest being involved was still beyond comprehension. The turning point didn't come from a brilliant detective or a brave witness. It came from within the church itself. Mallari's behavior had become increasingly erratic. His sermons were rambling and paranoid. His health, despite his horrific cures, continued to decline. Other clergy members and church officials started to notice that something was deeply wrong with the priest. It's believed that an assistant, or perhaps a visiting priest, finally stumbled upon evidence linking Mallari directly to the murders. It might have been a blood-stained item, a personal belonging of a victim, or even Mallari's own journals where he may have documented his deluded rationale. Whatever it was, the evidence was undeniable. The unthinkable had to be confronted. In 1826, Spanish soldiers, acting on information from the church hierarchy, arrived in Magalang. They didn't come for a social call. They came to arrest Father Juan Severino Mallari. The shock in the community must have been profound. Imagine the cognitive dissonance. The man who baptized your children, who heard your deepest confessions, who blessed your homes, was now being led away in chains, accused of being the monster everyone feared. The shield of his priesthood had finally been shattered. The trial of Juan Severino Mallari was a landmark case, not just for its horrific details, but for the legal and social questions it raised. For the first time, the colonial justice system had to seriously grapple with the concept of insanity as a legal defense. Mallari's own writings and behavior made it clear he was not of sound mind. His defense argued that he was suffering from a psychological ailment, driven by his delusional belief in the curse. He wasn't evil in the traditional sense. They claimed he was sick. The court proceedings took an agonizingly long time, 14 years, to be exact. During this period, Mallari was imprisoned, his mental and physical health continuing to deteriorate. The legal system of the 1800s was not equipped to handle such a complex psychological case. They consulted medical experts who confirmed that Mallari was indeed suffering from some form of madness. Yet, the sheer scale of his crimes demanded justice. Could a man who killed 57 people be excused because of his mental state? The court wrestled with this. They acknowledged his insanity but could not ignore the dozens of lives he had taken. The case dragged on, a testament to the legal and moral complexities of the situation. It highlighted the clash between religious authority, colonial law, and the budding understanding of mental health. For years, he sat in a cell while bureaucrats and judges decided his fate, a living ghost of the terror he had inflicted. The man who believed he was fighting a supernatural curse was now trapped in the very real, very slow-moving gears of the justice system. Finally, in 1840, a verdict was reached. Despite the acknowledgement of his mental illness, the court found him guilty. The brutality and sheer number of his crimes were too great to overlook. Juan Severino Mallari was sentenced to death by public execution. Mallari was hanged, bringing an end to one of the most gruesome chapters in Philippines history. The story of Father Mallari is more than just a true crime tale. It's a dark exploration of faith, power, and the human mind. It shows how unchecked authority, even when cloaked in holiness, can become a shield for unspeakable evil. It's a story about the collision of science and superstition, where a man's belief in a curse led him to become a curse upon his own community. And perhaps most importantly, it's a sobering reminder that monsters are not always shadowy figures in the dark. Sometimes, they are the people we are taught to trust the most. His legacy is a chilling one. The pious priest who became the Philippines' first serial killer. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into a truly unsettling piece of history. If you found this story as fascinating and chilling as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the dark corners of the past. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next video. Stay curious and stay safe.